Alrighty. So before we get into the questions, what I want to do is I want to give you a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself and give a few fast facts about your background.
All right. I hope it's recording well.
It is.
Good. Get a little feedback. Yeah. So my name is John Hafley, and I'm running for judge of County Court at Law number 1.
Mhm.
I'm going to kind of break this down into 3 parts. First part is, what is a county court at law? What is county court law number 1? Number 2, why am I the most qualified candidate? Because I think that's important for people to hear. And then number 3 is why I'm running. So I started off, County Court at Law number 1 is it's a general jurisdiction court here in Montgomery County, but it's been designated as a criminal misdemeanor court. So that means that court will hear criminal cases that are misdemeanors, such as DWIs, assault, family violences, assault, criminal trespass, any case that you can get less than a year in jail or a $4,000 fine, or both on a Class A misdemeanor, and on a Class B misdemeanor, it's less than 6 months in jail, $2,000 fine, or both. Some anomalies out there, but that's the general rule for misdemeanors in Texas. So why is that important? Well, it's important because my entire life has been dedicated to the criminal justice system. So right out of college, I got a job as a sheriff deputy, and then worked as a police officer, and I did that for about 8 years. And then I decided I wanted to go to law school. So it was a personal decision. It was an incident that occurred. I was working as a K-9 officer. Basically came home after chasing a bad guy through the woods and was all cut up, and went to pick up my son. I was all bloody, and he was crying. It's 5 a.m. Couldn't pick him up. So I thought to myself, is this, as much as I love this job, and I did love being a police officer, is this a job that I want for my kids and my family for the rest of my life? So of course I prayed on it, talked to my wife, and we made the decision that maybe law school is a good choice. So went to law school, and then I became a prosecutor. Now, I'm not going to tell my entire family story. I could go on forever, or my entire life story, but while in law school, it was interrupted several times because I was a member of the United States Army Reserve at the time, and still am. And of course, that was around 9/11. So to give you a time frame of when this decision was made. So in law school, I called up several times, and I had to just went to law school, did Army, to law school, did Army, and then finally stayed on active duty in the Army and finished law school at night. So that was my plan to get it completed. So the job that I took in the Army was a tough one. It was local in Houston, but it was a job that was a combination of 3 jobs all at once. And it was also, I was the casualty notification officer, which meant that I was charged with the job of knocking on the door of next of kin of a soldier that was killed in either Iraq or Afghanistan. So tough job. It was a trade-off to be in the Army every day and to be able to go to law school at night. So I volunteered to do that. Did that for about 2 to 3 years, and then went to Iraq after graduating from law school, where I was in charge of the operations of 1,200 soldiers in northern Iraq. I was a Bronze Star recipient for action that occurred over there. Came back and went to the DA's office up in Montgomery County. And my last police job was in Huntsville, so it was a perfect fit. Knew the people, knew the DA. So got on there, worked for a couple of years, got promoted to chief of felony court, and then was living in Montgomery County the whole time. So I decided to move back to Montgomery County, and not move back, but to open my office in Conroe. And been in private practice ever since. So why is that whole story important? Because it's the service to the community that I want to highlight in this campaign, as a police officer, as a prosecutor, as a serving in the Army for 30+ years. I just think those things are very important. I think leadership matters. I think that type of experience matters. So that's why I'm running. I have a lifetime record of service to the community, giving back where I can. I coached the league. I've been member of the VFW, the American Legion, all the chambers, volunteer with my kids when they had National Charity Roundtable and National Charity League, and we went with them to give back to the community. So that drive to keep serving, you know, I got that from my father, who was a Methodist minister, and I watched him every day of his life just give back to the community. And he ingrained it in me, and I want to continue that for the remainder of my life. And this is the best position to do that. So that's kind of my background story of what a court is, what this court does, why I have the experience, and why I'm running for it. What I did fail to mention is that in the Army Reserves recently, back in 2020, I was nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate to be a brigadier general. And today I serve as a division commander. So I have commanded at every single level in the United States Army, from company command to division command. And you know, I'm proud of that service, but what I'm more proud of is that for 30 years, stuck with it and continue to serve. So that's kind of that question in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for your service, first of all. And so I want to build on that a little bit, your experience as a law enforcement officer in the military, and how does that depth of experience, why is it important in this court?
All right, so like I said, this court is a misdemeanor criminal court. So I will be hearing cases where police officers will be witnesses. And my 8 years of experience, I'm not going to cut officers any slack. You know, I heard Rowdy say it the other day. Do you know any bad officers? Well, no. If you knew any bad officers, you would report them immediately. So they're not going to cut every police officer slack when they get up on the stand to testify. But I am going to understand what they've been through to get to that point. You know, I'm going to have that ingrained in my head, and I remember serving the community and remember what it's like to testify and understand that aspect. I'll also understand with the prosecutor what the duty they have. The duty they have is to seek justice, not to seek convictions. They're to seek justice, and I know that firsthand. I'm the only candidate in this race who has that type of experience in those two positions. I'm also a defense attorney, so I understand the angst and the pain that a defense attorney has to go through to get ready for such a case too. So I've seen all three sides of it. I think that's important in this race for a number of reasons. I know from feedback that people agree that that's an important experience that you have. But also a judge is a leader, right? He or she is the leader of the court. They are in charge of that courtroom. So they have 2,000 lives that are on their docket that they have to lead them through the hardest time of those people's lives. And it's difficult to be in charge with a crime. And I've led up to 3,500 soldiers and watched them rotate through Afghanistan, Iraq, coming back home, led 1,200 in combat. I lost 4 of them. So I understand what it means to have to lead people through tough times. So I think that entire package, I think it's important for a judge to have more than just a one-sided approach to anything in life. I mean, I think that type of importance is vital.
So Montgomery County has 3 of the county courts at law which handle criminal misdemeanor cases, and Montgomery County is a growing county. So how are you going to work together with the 3 courts and in your court individually to help keep pace with the growth of the county and the growth of cases?
Yeah, so before I make any decision on what I'm going to do with my court once elected, the first 90 days, I'm going to continue what the previous Judge Watson, did in this court. And I'm going to kind of observe and not make any changes. But as you said, the growth of this county it's spiking. So the 3 judges will work together to make sure that cases are rotated properly, cases are assigned properly. One court doesn't have 10,000, the other one have 1,000. I mean, the judges already do it. The Board of Judges already have a plan in place to make sure that we do that. One of the first things I need to look at is how often is this court meeting? Is it meeting enough to meet the needs of the community? And the more often the client or a defendant is in court with the state, the higher likelihood that the two sides will make an agreement. And as most people know, most cases are pled out. I mean, there's plea bargain agreements, and that's just how the system works. But I'm also going to have trials. I've said that in a number of forums, and I've said in the past on other podcasts and other events that you've got to have trials in this court. And the reason why is that is a forcing function for the two sides to really do a deep dive in the case to make sure that it is in their client, if you're a defense attorney, it's in your client's best interest to have a trial. If you're the state, do you have the witnesses that you can prove the case beyond reasonable doubt? And forcing it to a trial makes both parties analyze that case more. So to directly answer that question, the commissioner's court is going to make the decision whether there's going to be additional courts assigned. And that's not going to be something that I'm going to do as a freshman judge, but I will be a part of the board of judges. And if we notice that the cases are rising, we of course will do the analysis, and I'll do everything I can to use my past experience of analyzing major problems and looking into it for them. I'd be more than willing to do that. I'm also going to have Friday, like open court Friday, or I don't know what I'm going to name it yet, but it's going to be an open court Friday. So Friday is the jail docket. After the jail docket, I'm going to have the ability for the state and for defense counsel to plea their cases. I'll be there all day Friday. And they can come in, they can move their cases. So Friday is a slower day in the courtroom. So it gives ample opportunity for both sides to finish up cases and make agreements. Anytime there's access to a judge is a good time for both sides. They can move cases more, and I'll be there. Utilizing technology. I mean, we've gone through the Zoom age. We're on Zoom today. And when it works great. So if both parties have their I's dotted and T's crossed, and they have the paperwork properly done, electronically sent, electronically signed, or however we decide to do it in the future, then we'll do plea by Zoom as well. So that saves money. I mean, coming live costs people money. I mean, it costs citizens money, costs attorneys money. So if we can figure out a system that we can have a both live and virtual courtroom simultaneously, which I've seen in other courts, then I will for sure do it. So the uniqueness of what I do is I've practiced and did the count the other day, 40 different courtrooms, 40 different courtrooms. And I've seen some really well-run courtrooms, and I've seen some that don't really make it efficient for anybody. And it's, so I want to take the best of what I've learned throughout the state of Texas and apply it to my courtroom.
Now, you've already said you're going to take a 90-day kind of reflection period whenever you get into the court before you make any big changes. Why is that important?
So it's what I learned from the Army. When you come in and you take command, there's already been someone in command prior to you. And in this case, there's been someone who's been a judge for 20 plus years ahead of you. So you can't come in and act like you're a know-it-all and can make those changes, because rapid change, when done wrong, takes twice as long to fix. So you don't go in there and just, I don't like using this word, but willy-nilly make changes because that's what you think is best. You get to understand the dynamics of the people who work in the courtroom, the dynamic of the court reporter, the bailiff scheduling. You got to understand all of those things in a way that's not just superficial. That I can walk in and watch it one day and say, oh, and I'll make these changes. I'm an efficiency model guy. But you got to know more than just that quick look. You got to understand the inner workings of the court. Just like anybody out there who's listening who's in a company, you've got to understand the inner workings of the company before you go in and make any drastic changes. So that's why that reflection period, while still operating on the previous judge's schedule, is important. Because if out of that 90 days, you realize, well, this is a really well-ran courtroom and there may not be any changes needed. Or after 90 days, you might understand you have to tweak in one area and leave it alone in another area. So that's why it's important. It's what I've been taught as a leader for the past 30 years, and it's worked. It's worked for me, and it's worked for the Army, and it's worked for every organization that I've been in. So that's why.
Now, the pandemic brought some significant changes. For a period of time, the courts were even shut down. and that created a small backlog, but things have kind of started getting back on track. But what other changes do you think that affected the court operations, and are any of them here to stay? You've already spoken a little bit to the technology aspect.
Yeah, so technology wise, again, Zoom, we don't want to go Zoom exclusive because it's an absolute train wreck for some. And it just is. Some defendants, some attorneys just could not understand the concept of what a mute button is, could not understand the concept of a camera, not having background noise. You had clients that are in bed taking pleas. You had clients that are on the back porch with barking dogs, and they just didn't understand the full ramification, what it meant to be in a Zoom court. Zoom court, you're in a courtroom. So you should dress like you're in a courtroom. You should act like you're in a courtroom. You should perform in a way that is how you would perform in a professional setting. It doesn't work for everyone. So that's one of the big lessons that we learned, that, hey, Zoom isn't going to be here to stay on a permanent basis. Now, if an attorney and the client can put themselves in a professional way, for lack of a better term, or act professional while on Zoom, you can accomplish some Zoom missions, for lack of a better term. And you can have some off-document pleadings on Zoom. I'm good with that. I just don't know. I think it'd be a slippery slope back to just frustration of not everybody acting right in Zoom. And again, because people want to act bad, they just sometimes don't understand the full spectrum of technology to perform properly. And then some people live in areas where they don't have connections, and it looks like a disco movie all over the place, and it didn't work for them. So we can't have that permanently. We can utilize it whenever it makes the court more efficient. The other things are, every time there's I don't want to say pandemic because those are rare, but what designates a pandemic? What makes something an emergency? We experienced, like I said last Monday, the ice age. That's harmful to the community, and we obviously can't function whenever the roads aren't open, but can we get something done? And the answer is yes, if we choose to. So I think Zoom is going to be an option on many cases, but not every case. And it's certainly a Zoom trials in a criminal setting I think that's a recipe for disaster. You got issues with confrontation. You got to let the jury kind of see a witness, you read the witness, and that's kind of how a jury makes a decision. So I wouldn't be a big fan of that for jury trials via Zoom. I think that'd be wrong, and perhaps even unconstitutional. It'd violate the Sixth Amendment, right? The right to confrontation for clients or for defendants. The other things is we have to kind of look at the technology we have in place in other aspects. I can sign my taxes without ever seeing a piece of paper, right? And it goes to the federal government, and that's taxes. That's a pretty big deal. So I think the court, through the county clerk, can work a system where we can sign paperwork without actually signing paperwork. And, we're not going to save billions of dollars by eliminating unnecessary paper, but we are going to eliminate spending. And, I think everyone can agree that if we can eliminate spending somehow, we can, that's a good thing for the community. And then finally, the other thing that I'm looking deeply at is, everyone has a right to have an attorney appointed to them if they can't afford it, but we have a department that kind of looks at that already. But we just got to kind of make sure that people aren't getting appointed a free attorney when they can actually afford it. So I'd love to be on that committee to kind of look at, hey, are we doing the right thing when it comes to appointing attorneys? Yeah, so those are kind of the cost saving things that I'm looking at, and what I'm going to do with Zoom into the future.
Is there anything else you would like people to know about you, your campaign, or the court?
Yeah, so just about me, I've been married for almost 26 years now, that's a long time whenever you look back on it, because sometimes I feel like I'm still 26 years old, but been married for almost 26 years. April will be our 26th year of marriage. We have two wonderful kids. We raised them in Montgomery County. One is now at Ole Miss, and one's at Texas A&M, and they've excelled beyond our expectations. And like I said before, a lifetime of giving back is what I want to continue. I'm not running for me. This is certainly not a financial step up, and in fact, it's probably going to be the opposite. So I'm running to be a judge. I'm running based on two things. I say it all the time. I'll say it to you. Experience matters. Experience in the criminal justice system matters. So 30 plus years of experience in the criminal justice system, being military police officer, prosecutor, defense attorney, those things matter. And then leadership matters. You've got to lead a courtroom, and you have to be decisive when you're a judge. There'll be some cases that you'll have time to reflect on different writings and different positions, but you'll be on the bench. You need to know the law, and you need to be decisive. And whenever parties make objections, you need to rule on them immediately. If you have to reflect on everything that comes across your table, then you're destroying the efficiency of the courtroom, because you're spending lots of jury time trying to figure out what something it should be ruled this way or that way. So you got to be decisively engaged. I think my experience that I've had throughout the lifetime, being, like I said, as a police officer, if you can't be on the side of the road reflecting on everything every time you make a traffic stop or you engage with somebody at a house or during a disaster, you got to be decisive. So I think I bring those strengths to the table. I knew my background. I mean, and this sounds boasting every time I say it, but if I didn't believe I was the most qualified candidate, I wouldn't be running. I wouldn't be here today talking to you. I wouldn't be out there on the campaign trail if I didn't know that I was the most qualified candidate. Now I have to convince the voters based on my background, based on my experience, and based on my leadership. So this helps, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I think that kind of wraps it up. You can go to my website, hafleyforjudge.com. It's out there for the world to see. You can get my cell phone number on there. It's 281-827-8435. You can write it down. Call me anytime you want. Anybody who's listening, they can give me a shout out. And my email is on the website, so you can shoot me an email if you have a specific question. And that's why I'm asking for everyone who's listening. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking you for your support. Early voting is February 14th. Actual primary is March 1st. And on March 2nd, we will know who the next judge of county court of law #1 is, because the Democrats are not putting up challenger.
We certainly will. And I really appreciate your time today, Mr. Hafley.
Yep. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
You too.
All right.